it probably touches on a lot of other people's orders as well. But for me personally, I had argued that when they made the change in child support based on the change in time sharing, they got the child support calculation wrong, and I showed that to be the case. And they also, sua sponte, threw in there that I was supposed to, instead of keep on paying my ex as I was before the time change, refer me to the state of Florida to pay them. So they violated my contract with her. So I argued that, okay, first of all, you're not following the law because your child support calculations do not follow the statutes, and they don't have any leeway to change or deviate from that unless
Because
it's
what quick, Grant, because the judge's job, the judge's responsibility or duty is to interpret the statute. If the statute
correct.
is bright line, the judge can't go outside. Well, it's improper for a judge to go outside of what's bright line law. So if it's
Correct.
written in the statute, that's it. I'm just explaining for the people who are listening, so they have.
Yes. So I argued that very clearly and with supporting case law. And here's a decision from a case that I have.
Can you put it in the chat room?
Yeah, give me a. I'll just read it and I'll throw it in there. But let's see.
I actually have it.
Well, I've got a different one I don't think you've seen, but this is so generally we review the order denying relief under Rule 1.540B for an abuse of discretion. And they cite some case law there. But a decision whether or not to vacate or void judgment is not within the ambit of the trial court's discretion.
Right.
If the judgment previously entered as void, the trial court must vacate the judgment. And they're citing Wiggins v. Tygrant, which is one of the case laws that I submitted to my current judge and the previous judge, which they just ignored. So clearly this is coming from the appellate court. It's very clear what they have to do, and if they don't do it, they're not following the law because the appellate court is above the lower trial court. And then they go on.
Can you see what's inside the chat room now? I actually posted that from case law. That Wiggins case, send that over to me. I think that sounds familiar. I must have seen it for somebody else's case.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sure I've cited that quote, but I'm not sure if I've cited this particular case law that I'm looking at right now.
Okay.
But
definitely.
then they go on to say a violation of due process guarantee of notice and an opportunity to be heard renders a judgment void. So, my
Josh too. Right.
And so my contention is, well, I mean, they violated my due process rights. It's very clear they should have corrected it. And I have a concern with them just referring people to pay child support without any real proof that that's even a legitimate judgment.
I just don't think that they do that. I mean, unless I'm missing something, they should not be. I agree with what you're saying. I'm not sure they're doing that. Unless somebody's going to say they weren't. If they missed part of the process, that's easy that's a procedural error. So
I agree with you, but what I'm saying is then they'll make a bunch of presumptions on statute and they'll say, well, statute so-and-so allows us to refer it to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then because, you're, whatever the reason is, you're not married or whatever, then now we have jurisdiction and authority to take this over. And then when they make a mistake,
doesn't override any other procedural protections that you have. So they may say that, but they still have to make sure they follow all the other necessary prerequisites to get to where they can not violate you, where they can disregard your presence. So there's
right.
a process, right?
But similar to them not properly doing the child support calculation, which is probably the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, now you find yourself in a position where you're fighting against the people and they're claiming to have jurisdiction. And then all they've got to do literally, which the gentleman earlier on the call made it clear, is that he called those people and then they said, well, we can't help you. And then they called back 5 minutes later and said, oh, by the way, no, you don't have any issue at all. So it's literally a a push of a button. And that happened to me recently too, because they had
Oh
inappropriately
yeah,
um, tried to
license.
garnish my bank account.
Oh, the levy.
Yeah, levy my bank account. And so then I called the um, inspector general with the child support agency, and I explained to them the situation. And I get a phone call, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 hours later from the child support division here in Manatee County saying that everything's been resolved. And so, I mean, all they got to do is push a button. So they make a mistake, they make your life miserable. Then you got to fight with them, and then if you can finally get lucky and actually have some, some forward motion, all they've got to do is push a button, and it goes away.
Now that sounds like something that might be Brett's fault, not Brett, Daly's fault as a
Right.
programmer. But I kind of wondered about some of these things in 2025, or even 2024, as to why things take the time that it takes to fix. When, unless you have something different, you can tell me, Daly. That to me, it's like everything should be done. I guess kind of what Brett's saying. There should be very few errors in this day of technology.
Well, the views and opinions expressed by Greg Doss are solely Greg Doss's. But yeah, no, I mean, something of that glaring risk, there usually checks and balances to make sure that doesn't, or redundancies put in to make sure that doesn't happen. And I did experience it where it's like, even for me, my driver's license was suspended. Calling in and say, hey, look, I need to work. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll just push a button. And the next day it's back on,
But
So,
there shouldn't be. But I guess I'm not looking at so much as how they fix it. I'm concerned as to why there are so many errors in this day and age when there shouldn't be that many errors. Is that a programming issue? Is that
no, I mean, that's not a programming issue, I'm sure. I mean, I know it's not. I mean, unless they requested it as a feature of the program that, hey, add a 5% offset,